I ask myself this question every day. Why is mental health in the US such a big issue? I suffer from severe anxiety and depression and have suffered from this for most of my life. Not to sound like a victim, but as a sufferer, I can tell you that a lot of my anxiety is caused by things that are out of my control. Do you feel the same way? If you look at how we live on a global scale, it really doesn't surprise me that people suffer from horrible, debilitating conditions. Look at how stressful life is with the unnecessary, ridiculous, oppressive rules we see everywhere and every day. The consequences we are faced with in the legal system after making a small mistake, even a misdemeanor, such as violating a city ordinance or traffic violation. Judgment comes from authority figures, public, family, and friends. If you step even one toe out of line with regard to cultural expectations. Look at how essential money is to even function in our daily lives and how hard life is without it. And look at what you have to do to get it. The expectation to conform and the fear of not conforming is crippling. Being employed, paying taxes, paying bills, buying insurance, medical bills, mortgages, rent, fines, the list goes on and on. People live to work, and work has been made so stressful because of the expectation of making profit for a company. In an ideal world, would we work all day, every day, just to come home for a few hours and then go to bed, and repeat this routine again day after day until we die? If we lived beyond this reality, would there even be a need for monetary currency? Would we live such rushed, selfish, materialistic, commerce-driven lifestyles? Would we feel the need to look and act a certain way, or feel the need to possess or own materialistic goods? If you are self-employed and you feel ill and can't go to work, should we fear that we're going to fall behind on paying bills, putting food on the table, risk losing the house we live in? The world will never be ideal. On that, I think we can all agree. The world will never be utopian. It would be silly to think we can achieve a state of perfection or standard of living that cannot be improved. However, I think we are very far from a healthy world, and I strongly feel that the way we are forced to live definitely impacts how healthy we are. In some cases, this is shown with phases of mental illness. Common neurotic conditions such as anxiety, depression, OCD, anorexia, bulimia, phobias, PTSD, somatization, dissociation, panic, anger, and all the rest. Even severe psychotic disorders, such as schizophrenia, bipolar, and borderline personality disorder. Sooner or later, you just have to ask yourself, why? Why do we live this way? Why are we making ourselves ill and not doing everything we can to change it? Why do 1% control the other 99% through money and power? Why do we make our lives so difficult and stressful? It literally seems that there are a few people sitting in a room somewhere having a discussion about how difficult they can make life for other people, and then coming to a conclusion and saying, yeah, that would really piss them off. Let's do things that way. I don't care if they like it or not, just as long as I get paid. Are they sitting on the other side of a one-way mirror, watching us on monitors, enjoying the rat race we all have to put up with day in and day out, loving that the extreme minority are rich and the majority are incredibly stressed? It doesn't make any sense. But that's conspiracy thinking, and I don't want to go in that direction either. If you're born in this world, I don't care who you are or what family you were born into. It should be the right of every single human being on earth to have enough nutritious food, clean water, decent clothing, adequate shelter, a proper education, which includes science, math, and technology, and meaningful, productive work. Notice how I said meaningful and productive work. This means work that is not stressful and not based on making profit for an employer according to their own policies and whims. It means work that is not wasteful and frivolous and is not done just to collect monetary payment for goods and services. Everyone should have the right to be educated and work with the most advanced information available in the world for creating and enhancing technology without the burden of monetary payment or debt. Learning should be an enjoyable yet highly productive endeavor. and the work we should do should result in putting knowledge and ideas directly back into a system that benefits everyone. Around 80% of all problems in the world are systemic. What do I mean by that? A systemic problem is due to issues inherent in the overall system, rather than due to a specific individual isolated factor. The opposite would be user error or common mistake dependent on nothing else. What happened with our systems was basically a case of, it seemed like a good idea at the time when we started it, but what the hell happened? And now how do we fix it? Examples of systemic issues would be government power, extremely overly complicated tax system, the economy, quote unquote, which is really not economical at all, as the name suggests, pollution, climate change, lobbyist-driven political system, corrupt and wasteful legal system, rising costs of healthcare, and the college student loan crisis, to name a few. A change to the structure, organization, or policies could alleviate systemic problems. For example, a fishbone diagram of cause and effect links. The source of the problem could be said to have a common cause rather than a special cause. One of the most massive problems we face is socioeconomic inequality. This is a huge, widespread problem with a common cause: money. Some people have access to resources they need, but not everyone does. And the ones who don't have access are made to think that it's somehow their problem. People with money have privileges to access resources, opportunities, territories, and technology, whereas those who don't have money go without or wait until it falls below a certain price and accept the leftovers if there are any. The ones who have money either, number one, inherited old money from their ancestors and were trained since birth to think that somehow they're entitled to it and all of its benefits. For all we know, old money could have been stolen from other groups of people with money. We don't know how honest people were in dealing with commerce and transactions in the past. And number two, acquired it through means where they become successful at selling a product or service for profit. Aside from companies who follow normal business models with expenses, cost, revenue, and profit, this also means that banks can lend anyone money and interest and never have to be held accountable for where they get it. Hint, new money is created out of thin air from a system called fractional reserve banking, and they always require payment with interest, whether you can afford it or not. This is enforced by the governments with powerful central banks. It is backed by nothing and still exists only as a confidence game. And by the way, the owners of wealth forgive no one. You can only get out from under it by declaring bankruptcy and ruining your credit score. People without money are told they need to earn money, become an indentured servant to a corporate master, in order to have enough purchasing power to access things they need, like a car or house, or be swindled into a loan with high interest from a bank or lending institution, and end up paying much more over time for the product than it's ever worth. This is not fair, and it totally fosters greed, extortion, coercion, and arrogant, privileged behavior. The global system may be kept running for some time yet, but be assured it is totally unsustainable. What we have been seeing by companies a lot lately is an attempt to cover up unsustainable practices as greenwashing. You see this all the time with big oil, big auto, and big power utility. It is basically the act of misleading consumers about the environmental practices of a company or the environmental benefits of a product or service. But all the while, the very practice of what they're doing promotes about the same amount of waste, pollution, and consumption. It will result either in transformation to something a lot healthier, or systems will collapse. Not to sound negative, but I think the latter is likely or more realistic. I only say this because big corporations appear to stop at nothing and will continue to pollute, waste, and push consumption as much as ever before. However, we must try to have some hope. It's all about control. It's inherent in the capital system, but it exists elsewhere as well. I suppose you just can't blame capitalism for it all. But if people are subscribing and continuing to practice it, things will not get better. We can't change our systemic problems by complaining, but a good rant can sometimes help us get it out of our system for a little while. Keep in mind that we're fighting a battle of truth versus untruth, and we have to keep things real. Mental illness can be caused by a variety of things, but what is most important is to seek help from those you trust. and have a safe environment in which you get proper support when you need it. Sometimes that means being alone with your thoughts to unwind and recharge, or it can mean opening up about how you feel with people you care about. We are in the midst of a revolution of values. So many people are confused and making very bad choices. And when that happens, we all suffer. People must decide what is most important as they move forward in life. At any period of life, in any generation or time period, one thing has always been true and will always be true. Values of virtue, honesty, integrity, compassion, and kindness are always better when you do business, have relationships, or interact with people in any way. Take care of yourself.